When documents arrive with missing vendor codes, inconsistent names, or blank fields, your team ends up entering the values in your system manually every single time. With Staples Data Enrichment, upload your master data once, and the system automatically fills in the missing values on every document that flows through your queue. For example, let us enrich the data extracted from an invoice with vendor code and line item codes. For setting up the data enrichment, we require three things: a model, a knowledge base, and an enrichment rule. Let's create the model first. In this existing model for an invoice, we need to add a field for the vendor code. The data area is empty because the field is not present in this document. Likewise, in the table, the item code column needs to be created, and data will be fetched from the master data. We need to map the model to the queue. Once that is done, let us create the knowledge base. For that, I'm going to the Data Enrichment module. Here, we'll have to upload the vendor codes and the item codes. They can be in CSV, JSON, or XML format. And this is our vendor code sheet, which has the vendor name, vendor code, address, GST number, and labels. We also have an item code sheet, which has the item name, item code, and vendor code. Let us download it into two individual CSV files and upload them. We can update the knowledge base here. First, I'm importing the vendor code sheet. Here, we can choose the field type accordingly, and I'm marking the field as string. Next, when you mark a column as optional, the sheet will be imported even when a few cells are empty. However, if you mark it as mandatory, not even one cell in the column must be empty for the import to proceed successfully. Let us upload the item code sheet now. The knowledge base is ready, and it is time to add the rules. Let us start by naming the rule. The first step is to choose and map the field that you would like to enrich with the knowledge base. Choose the model. In our case, it is the invoice model. Next, choose the document field as vendor code, which we'd like to fetch. Finally, map the vendor code to the knowledge base called master data vendor code and the column named vendor code. Next, we are setting the conditions to match the vendor code from the sheet with the vendor code in the knowledge base. If the vendor name in the document matches the knowledge base, then the vendor code will be fetched automatically. So if it's going to be an exact match, we can choose exact. If you feel names might be a little different, like John Enterprises versus John Enterprises Private Limited, in those cases, we need to set up a comparison meter. And if we are going to have data like Atlantic salmon on the document and fish in the knowledge base, AI understands the relation and matches it automatically. For those scenarios, we will have to choose semantic. In this case, I am choosing fuzzy. And we can also match them with respect to the original language or the translated language. For example, if the document is in Chinese and the knowledge base is in English, we can translate the data in the document to English and then match the translated data with the knowledge base. We can also set up another condition with and/or logic. So in this case, I am choosing GST number to match with the GST number in the knowledge base, and it has to be an exact match. The third step is to configure the rules. So if more than one match is found, would you like to choose the first match or the default value we can enter here, or leave it blank or use the best match depending upon the score that we gave above? If the tool extracts a value from the document, would you like to keep that, or would you like to overwrite it with the value from the knowledge base? Here is an option for that. And when a match is found, would you like to apply any label? So in Staple, we have a concept called labels, where you can classify documents and move them to different queues using labels and rules. To learn more about it, please go to docs.staple.ai. Here you can learn about them under Classify Documents automatically using labels. In the vendor code knowledge base, I have added labels for each vendor, and these labels will be automatically applied. Now, let us create the rule and map it to the specific queue. So, once queue mapping is done, let us create another rule for the item codes. So the model name is again the invoice model. The document field that you like to fetch here is in the table, and it is the item code. It has to be fetched from the knowledge base called the master data item code, and the item code needs to be fetched. Now, let us set up the conditions. The model field that has to match is the item name. And I'm applying fuzzy matching. Also, the vendor code fetched from the knowledge base using the rules that we set earlier should match the vendor code in the item master data. If I'd like to add any more rules to this queue, I can add them very easily. Also, I can rearrange them. The purpose of rearranging them is to control the order in which they are executed. In our setup, the vendor code must be fetched first because the item code validation depends on the vendor code. Therefore, the item code can only be fetched after the vendor code has been successfully identified. Item code involves vendor code validation, so once the vendor code is fetched, the item code will be matched. We can also update the knowledge base by appending new rows, or by directly opening it and adding a new entry. If you'd like to find a specific item, you can use the filters to quickly narrow down the list and locate it. Now that the knowledge base is configured and the enrichment rules are in place, the final step is to upload a document and verify the results. For that, I'm going to the scanning module and selecting the sales invoice queue. Next, I'll upload the invoice document. The document is uploaded. Here you can see that the vendor code is automatically fetched. Click the icon to view the knowledge base. Here we can see that John Enterprises is mapped to vendor code VND1001, and we can also view the other vendor codes. There's another beauty here. So, for example, if you feel John Enterprises is not the right value, we can copy We & Co. Change the vendor name to We & Co. and then save it. Now when I hit the refresh button, the vendor code will be changed to VND1019. Also, we can go back to John Enterprises Now, when I hit refresh, it will go back to VND1001. This is how the header field data enrichment works. Now let us look at the enrichment of the table with item codes. According to the item name, we have fetched the item codes. Let us quickly cross-check. So for Candyman Fantastic, the item code fetched is ITM 1005. Let us check the sheet. For Candyman Fantastic, the item code is ITM 1005. It has matched the vendor code too, and then it has fetched item codes. If the vendor code hasn't matched, these details wouldn't have come here. This is how we enrich tables. And that's how data enrichment works. If your team is manually correcting document data today, data enrichment can help automate that accurately at scale.